Hi, this is Steve. I'm going to show you a couple of my tricks to doing a tiger stripe retainer. The first trick I'm going to show you is I use a colored monomer instead of clear. A pink Great Lakes monomer it brings out the more vibrant orange color. Typically, if you use a light clear coat color, it just doesn't look as bright or vibrant to get a good tiger stripe. As you see, I already put the wires on, and I'm shooting this audio after the fact that I already made the retainer, so I'm just narrating it. I go ahead and put a base layer of orange acrylic. I use Great Lakes Tropical Tone Mango Orange. And what I like to do is I put on the right hand side, I always start on the right hand side, and I'll layer a nice thick layer. You'll see what it looks like when the reason why. Before I make my stripes, I got to build it up. Obviously, getting underneath the wire and making sure everything flows real nice. That's half the battle. Sometimes if you do this technique, I found out that you get no bubbles in your stripes. Over the years, found out just by trial and error, and this is the best technique I found. So I'm going to go ahead and build this up. Before I go to add my stripes, I'm going to put a little bit of clear coat Great Lakes polymer over everything. And that's going to be this layer right here. Just a little quick coat. It actually makes it a little bit harder faster. And then I use my utensil here. I'm not for sure. I think it's a number 7 little spatula with a sharp edge. And I'll go in and cut these out. And if you notice what I'm doing, I'm removing it and just kind of wiping it on my little napkin there. Just getting a good stripe, removing the acrylic, and it's setting up. So you got to work extremely fast. That is the biggest key of making a tiger or a stripe, or a tiger or a zebra stripe retainer is working fast. If you work slow, the acrylic sets up, and then you're running into problems. Typically bubbles. One of the cool things about making tiger stripes is they don't have to be all even. Now I'm going to go and add some black acrylic. I'm adding that in slowly, just letting it flow. I put a little base layer on. This isn't your complete layer, and I'll show you what I do. So one side's done, and I kind of tap it down just to get the excess off so it's not falling into the left-hand side that's not complete. Now, like I said, I didn't build up the layers of the striped acrylic because I'm kind of letting it start to cure. At this time, I go ahead and do the other side of the retainer. The exact same pattern. I'm just going to build this up. Again, the key to this whole process is to work fast. But I learned by adding pink monomer, that was kind of an accident. One day I was experimenting and I just realized that pink brings out orange. I didn't know that until accidentally. Probably I ran out of pink, clear acrylic, and I was using some pink. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to build this up and then I'll go back. There I use my clear polymer again, just a nice little quick layer of clear. Now I'm going to begin to drag some more stripes through. The key is to drag carefully and fast without removing too much of the orange and without obviously hitting your wires. So you got to be very careful. but you slowly remove acrylic enough to make that stripe, that cavern. This one I'm gonna do a little different. I made a little, like a little Y in it just because it looks more like a tiger stripe when it's finished. Now I also know that the right hand side is still setting up. That's keeping the process going where I have to work fast. I'm going to add in the black acrylic in a second. The exact same thing. I don't completely bury it in black right now. I just add a little bit of black into those caverns that I just created, making sure that I get rid of all the excess orange acrylic out of those caverns so it makes a nice stripe. If you have some orange falling into it, it looks terrible at the end. That's the trick of making good stripes. So I lightly flow in black acrylic. I use polymer. You can use monomer, but it doesn't look near as good at the end, and it looks kind of messy. I use a black polymer on polymer. With the black polymer, I'm also using clear monomer. I'm sorry, clear monomer. There you go. Hey, it showed you. Now I'm going to go back, and as you see, my black stripes are setting up on the other side. Now I'm going to build them up. Now here's the part that people look at and go, what's he doing? Because this looks terrible, and you'll see why. I'm going to keep building up those stripes over the orange acrylic. Now I know my nice base layer is already set up, so I'm good. So that's why I'm building up my black. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second when I build this up, because it looks terrible. Again, this is the same exact technique I use with a zebra. A white base layer with black stripes, obviously. And what looks kind of cool is if I do a half orange and black tiger and a half white and black tiger. If I split the colors, it looks pretty cool. So I'm almost done adding my black layers. It looks okay right now, but this is the part that looks terrible. I go ahead and just add a black layer to fill in to make sure I get all the air bubbles and there's no gaps. And adding clear monomer to the process. So when this goes into under the pressure pot, this is what it looks like, a big mess. But I do know that when it's finished, you're going to trim all that off, and you'll see. Obviously, you saw the very beginning of my video. You see what the end product's going to look like. So you got to trust me. You got to trust yourself. If you've never done this before, that's why it looks terrible. Most people would think that it's just going to bleed all the way through, but contrary to it, it actually comes out really nice. Here I'm just going to build this up a little bit more. When I'm saying building it up, it's actually not as thick as it looks, or what I'm explaining. It's just a little thicker retainer that needs to be trimmed. There it goes in the pot. Oh, here's another little trick I forgot to tell you. I take a blade, a sharp blade, and I'll trim off the lower part of the retainer before it goes into the pot, the pressure pot under pressure. This way, I just take off a little bit on the bottom. It's going to help me remove the retainer from the model when it's all said and done, when it's hard. Because otherwise, you go to break it off, and typically you crack the model and break everything. And so I'll remove a little bit from the heel too. I do this with a really sharp blade because the acrylic's setting up. So from here it goes directly into the pressure pot. And what I did to speed the process up, this is after the pressure pot. I'm going to show you how easy it is to pop off. See, it pops right off. And this is how terrible it looks. So you look at it and go like, oh, I made a mess. But what's going to happen is I'm going to throw it under my lathe and clean it up a little bit, and then it'll start to become a retainer. I also wanted to point out that I made C-clasp on this retainer, soldered C-clasp. That's after I cleaned it up with the lathe. So it's starting to take the shape of a retainer. See how I got rid of all the black on the top? And there's my stripes. If you have any questions, comments, check out my other videos. Go ahead, Nina.